The dark reality of pirate ships. The dream that smelled like death. If you close your eyes for just a moment, you can almost hear it. Not the cheerful sea shanties that modern movies have convinced us every pirate sang every afternoon, but something much quieter. The endless groan of old timber shifting beneath invisible pressure. The restless slap of dark water against a weathered hull. The whistle of wind threading through worn ropes that had survived storms no sensible sailor would ever willingly sail into. Somewhere overhead, a loose pulley taps against a mast with stubborn determination. Somewhere below, a rat scratches inside a barrel that was supposed to contain food. The smell is impossible to escape. Salt hangs permanently in the air, mixing with damp wood, old tar, stale beer, sweat soaked into rough clothing, and the unmistakable scent of bodies that have not been properly washed in months. It is the sort of smell that would cling to your skin even after you step back onto land. If you arrived expecting romance, adventure, and buried treasure, the ship itself would politely introduce you to reality before another human being even said hello. Tonight, as the world grows quieter outside your window, we are going to leave behind the colorful legends that have drifted across centuries like smoke over calm water. We are going to step aboard an actual pirate ship during the Golden Age of Piracy, not as fearless captains carrying parrots on our shoulders or dramatically swinging from ropes with perfect hair, somehow untouched by sea spray, because of course that almost never happened. Instead, we are arriving as an ordinary sailor. We have no famous name, no legendary reputación, no hidden map leading to unimaginable riches. We have sore hands, tired legs, an uncertain future, and just enough hope to make questionable decisions. That hope, oddly enough, was exactly what piracy fed upon. History has a habit of polishing rough edges until uncomfortable truths become entertaining stories. Kings become noble, wars become glorious, castles become picturesque holiday destinations. Pirates become lovable rebels who laugh in the face of authority while collecting endless piles of gold doubloons that gleam forever beneath tropical sunlight. Somewhere along the journey from reality to legend, nearly every unpleasant detail quietly slipped overboard. The real pirate ship was not freedom. It was desperation, and desperation, unlike treasure, was always plentiful. To understand why thousands of men willingly climbed aboard these floating nightmares, we must first travel back to a world that looked very different from our own. Imagine Europe around the late 17th century. Great empires stretched their influence across oceans they barely understood. Powerful kingdoms competed endlessly for colonies, trade routes, and wealth. Every voyage promised profit. Every distant shore hinted at spices, sugar, silver, tobacco, or enslaved labor. Oceans became highways of commerce, but also battlefields where national rivalries played out hundreds of miles from home. Ships crossed the Atlantic almost constantly. Merchant vessels lumbered beneath enormous cargoes worth fortunes. Naval warships hunted enemy fleets. Fishing boats hag familiar coastlines. Slave ships committed horrors so vast they remain almost impossible to fully comprehend even today. Every vessel depended upon ordinary sailors. Unfortunately for those sailors, ordinary people rarely enjoyed extraordinary treatment. Life aboard a legal merchant ship could be astonishingly miserable. Captains ruled almost like kings. Discipline was brutal. Food was poor. Pay often disappeared into corruption before crews ever saw a single coin. Sailors could work from before sunrise until long after darkness settled over the sea. Punishments for disobedience included whipping, starvation, confinement, or worse. Injuries were common. Medical care barely existed. If a sailor died during a voyage, there was little ceremony. A body wrapped in cloth, a short prayer if anyone remembered one, and another splash disappearing into endless water. Replacement sailors were easy to find, or rather, easy to force. One particularly unpleasant feature of maritime life involved press gangs. Imagine walking home after finishing work, perhaps already thinking about supper, only to be surrounded by armed men acting under government authority. They informed you that congratulations were apparently in order because you were now serving aboard His Majesty's Navy whether you wished to or not. Resistance usually accomplished very little besides making the situation more painful. The sea had an endless appetite for manpower. Governments fed it accordingly. For poor young men living in coastal towns, the ocean represented both opportunity and terror. There might be wages. There might be adventure. There might even be enough money to support a family. There was also disease, storms, warfare, starvation, and an alarmingly high chance of never returning home again. Against that bleak backdrop, piracy began to look surprisingly attractive. Not because pirate ships were comfortable, far from it, but because compared with legal ships, pirates sometimes offered something astonishingly rare. Choice. That single word carried enormous power. Many pirate crews elected their captains rather than blindly obeying them forever. Important decisions could involve discussion among the crew. Loot, while certainly unevenly distributed, often followed agreed shares rather than disappearing entirely into an owner's pocket. Men who had spent years enduring abuse aboard merchant vessels suddenly found themselves living under rules they had actually helped create. Modern readers sometimes find this surprising. Pirates, after all, were violent criminals. They absolutely were. Yet inside their own ships, many developed systems that looked oddly democratic for the early 18th century. Human beings are wonderfully complicated creatures. Someone can rob a merchant ship on Tuesday while passionately defending equal voting rights among fellow pirates on Wednesday. History rarely fits neatly into convenient categories. Our story truly begins after another enormous conflict had already reshaped the Atlantic world. During the late 17th and early 18th centuries, European powers fought expensive wars that demanded thousands of experienced sailors. Governments also relied heavily upon privateers. Privateers occupied one of history's more confusing moral neighborhoods. Picture a pirate. Now imagine someone handing that pirate official paperwork from the government saying, "You may rob enemy ships, but only theirs. Please try to keep the receipts." Congratulations. You have just invented privateering. Privateers carried legal commissions known as letters of marque. These documents allowed privately owned vessels to attack enemy commerce during wartime. Governments benefited because they weakened rival nations without paying for every ship themselves. Private captains benefited because captured cargo could make them enormously wealthy. Everyone was happy. Well, everyone except the people being robbed. Then the wars ended. Governments signed treaties. Peace returned. Thousands of experienced sailors suddenly discovered their legal permission to capture ships had expired. Unfortunately, their skills had not. Imagine spending years becoming exceptionally talented at chasing merchant vessels, firing cannons, boarding ships, intimidating crews, navigating dangerous waters, and dividing captured cargo. Then someone announces that your profession no longer exists. Finding ordinary employment suddenly seems rather dull. Some former privateers accepted peaceful lives. Many did not. They simply kept doing exactly what they had always done. The only difference was that governments now called them pirates. The line between patriot and criminal proved astonishingly thin. Meanwhile, the Caribbean transformed into one of the busiest regions on Earth. European colonies produced sugar so profitable that people called it white gold. Merchant ships traveled predictable routes, carrying incredible wealth. Islands dotted across warm blue seas offered countless hidden coves where fast vessels could disappear almost magically. Nature herself had designed an ideal environment for piracy. Warm weather helped ships remain active year-round. Hundreds of islands complicated pursuit. Long distances separated naval bases. Heavy merchant ships moved slowly beneath valuable cargo. It was almost as though geography quietly whispered encouragement into ambitious ears. Of course, geography has never possessed particularly strong moral opinions. As pirate crews grew larger, stories spread astonishingly quickly through ports across the Atlantic. Sailors gathered in waterfront taverns where cheap rum flowed almost as freely as exaggerated tales. One man claimed a pirate captain had captured a Spanish treasure ship carrying enough silver to buy an entire kingdom. Another swore that pirates divided fortunes after every successful voyage. Someone else insisted that pirate captains respected skilled sailors regardless of birth. Each story grew slightly larger with every retelling. No one ever interrupted to mention dysentery, or infected wounds, or tropical fevers. Those details somehow failed to improve morale. Human beings have always excelled at remembering exciting possibilities while quietly forgetting uncomfortable probabilities. A young dock worker hearing these stories after another miserable week loading cargo might reasonably begin wondering whether lawful poverty truly represented the wiser choice. This is how legends recruit followers, not through lies alone, but through selective truth. Pirates really did sometimes seize astonishing wealth. Some crews really did divide profits more fairly than merchant companies. Certain captains genuinely earned loyalty rather than demanding obedience through fear. Yet every attractive promise came attached to realities rarely mentioned in tavern conversations. Because every pirate ship existed inside a relentless environment that cared absolutely nothing for dreams. The sea was always stronger. Always. Imagine standing on the deck during a calm afternoon. Sunlight sparkles across endless water, stretching toward every horizon. Flying fish skim the surface before vanishing again. Ajal la brasa fis pacha, sail sueft. For a few precious hours, life almost resembles those romantic paintings hanging inside museums. Then dark clouds appear. Wind changes direction. Experienced sailors stop smiling. Storms arrived with astonishing speed. Massive waves transformed sturdy ships into fragile wooden toys. Rain blinded lookouts. Lightning illuminated towering walls of water that seemed almost alive. Masts snapped, rigging tangled. Cannon broke loose and rolled across decks like iron monsters determined to flatten anyone unfortunate enough to stand nearby. No pirate captain could negotiate with a hurricane. No amount of courage impressed the Atlantic Ocean. If the sea decided your voyage was over, discussion ended immediately. Ironically, storms sometimes proved more terrifying than naval warships. At least another ship possessed human intentions. Nature did not. Surviving depended partly upon experience, mostly upon luck. Even after calm returned, danger lingered everywhere. Fresh water spoiled. Food rotted. Wood hulls leaked constantly. Barnacles slowed ships. Worms silently chewed through submerged timbers. Sails required endless repairs. Every rope eventually frayed. Every nail rusted. Every voyage gradually dismantled the vessel, carrying everyone toward uncertain futures. Maintaining a ship demanded endless labor. Freedom, it turned out, involved quite a lot of maintenance. Who could have guessed? By now, perhaps, you have noticed something curious. We have discussed pirates for quite some time without actually introducing one. That is because piracy was never really about famous individuals at first. It was about anonymous men. Most pirates disappeared from history completely. No portrait survive. No yernes. No dramatic last speeches. Only scattered names inside court documents or naval records written by people determined to hang them. History remembers captains because captains leave larger footprints. The crew beneath them often vanish beneath the tide. Yet those forgotten sailors formed the beating heart of every pirate ship. Some had escaped cruel captains. Others fled crushing debts. Some were runaway servants. Some were escaped, enslaved people seeking impossible freedom in an impossible world. Others simply wanted money quickly before fate inevitably caught them. Every face carried its own story. Every decision carried consequences. Picture one young sailor standing alone beside a crowded harbor at dusk. His boots are worn nearly through. He owns little more than the clothes on his back. A merchant captain recently cheated him of months of wages. Another legal voyage promises more suffering for uncertain reward. Across the harbor sits a sleek brigantine flying no national flag. Its crew laugh louder than everyone else. They appear confident, well-fed, armed, dangerous. One pirate notices him watching. A small nod. Nothing dramatic. Just an invitation. No speeches about destiny. No orchestral music swelling heroically. Simply the possibility of another life. One step onto that gangplank changes everything. Because pirate ships rarely allowed easy departures. Joining felt simple. Leaving proved considerably more complicated. As darkness settles across the harbor, lanterns flicker gently upon black water. Somewhere, a bell rings from another vessel preparing for tomorrow's tide. Tavern music drifts across humid evening air before fading into the distance. Our young sailor stands motionless, caught between two futures. Behind him waits a world that has treated him harshly. Ahead waits a world that may treat him even worse. He cannot know that. Neither can we. History has a peculiar habit of disguising crossroads as ordinary moments. One quiet decision, one wooden gangplank, one uncertain heartbeat, and suddenly, a man's name may someday appear in government proclamations, terrified newspaper reports, or perhaps nowhere at all. Because the sea keeps many secrets. Some disappear beneath waves. Others become legends. And legends, as we will soon discover, often hide far darker truths than anyone watching from shore could possibly imagine. So, settle a little deeper into your chair, listen to the old timbers creak beneath invisible footsteps, and let the wind carry us farther from the safety of land. In the next chapter, we will climb fully aboard one of these infamous pirate ships, not for a heroic adventure, but for something much stranger. We will discover what it actually felt like to wake every morning surrounded by damp wood, hungry men, loaded cannons, and an ocean that never stopped reminding everyone aboard that death was only ever one badly timed wave away. Sleep if you can. The ship has only just left the harbor, a floating prison built by choice. Morning arrived aboard a pirate ship without much concern for whether anyone had actually slept. There were no soft dawns here. No gentle birdsong drifting through open windows. No smell of fresh bread rising from a village oven somewhere beyond the trees. Instead, the day announced itself through the impatient creak of timber, the groan of rope under strain, the slap of waves against the hull, and the unmistakable voice of someone shouting from the deck because something always needed doing. If the sea itself had a personality, it was that one overly demanding employer who somehow expected everyone to work overtime forever. The first thing you would notice, before your eyes fully adjusted to the dim light filtering through the gun ports, would be the air. It barely moved. Imagine dozens, sometimes well over 100 men, sleeping inside a space never designed to hold so many human beings. The ceiling hangs low enough that taller sailors instinctively duck. Moisture beads on wooden beams overhead before dripping slowly onto the deck below. Every breath carries traces of salt, mildew, sweat, damp clothing, tobacco smoke, stale beer, unwashed bodies, and the faint sour odor of spoiled food. There was no escaping it. The ship breathed with you. Or perhaps more accurately, everyone breathed into the ship together until the entire vessel seemed permanently alive with human scent. Modern visitors walking aboard carefully restored historic ships often remark that they seem surprisingly cramped. They usually make this observation while standing on clean decks that smell pleasantly of polished wood and fresh sea air. Those museums are beautiful, educational, immaculately maintained. An actual pirate ship would have changed their opinion within about 3 minutes. Pirate vessels were usually not enormous floating fortresses. Contrary to popular imagination, many preferred smaller, faster ships. A quick brigantine or sloop could outrun heavier naval vessels while still carrying enough cannon to frighten merchant captains into surrender. Speed mattered more than grandeur. After all, if your entire career depended upon chasing wealthy ships while avoiding governments determined to execute you, elegance became somewhat less important than acceleration. The famous pirate ships celebrated today often looked rugged rather than majestic. Their sails were patched, their rigging repaired countless times. their hulls scarred from storms, reefs, cannon fire, and years of relentless service. Every scratch told a story. Every repair hinted at another close escape. The deck itself never truly rested. Someone scrubbed planks. Someone repaired sails. Someone checked the anchors. Someone climbed into the rigging with the confidence of a person who had long ago accepted that falling from 40 feet onto a cannon was simply one of life's occupational hazards. Below deck, others sorted supplies, inspected weapons, cleaned muskets, sharpened cutlasses, rolled barrels, patched clothing, or searched desperately for rats chewing through precious stores. There was always work. Always. Freedom aboard a pirate ship did not mean leisure. It meant choosing who shouted at you while you worked. One of the greatest myths surrounding pirates is that they spent their lives drinking rum from sunrise until sunset while singing loudly and occasionally searching for treasure maps decorated with cheerful little X marks. Reality was considerably less festive. Alcohol certainly flowed aboard pirate vessels, sometimes because water spoiled surprisingly quickly during long voyages. Fresh water stored inside wooden barrels gradually became stagnant. Bacteria flourished. Algae appeared. The liquid developed unpleasant tastes that could make even the thirstiest sailor hesitate. Beer lasted somewhat longer. Wine survived better still. Rum became particularly valuable because it mixed well with water, helping disguise unpleasant flavors while making questionable drinking decisions feel considerably more reasonable. This did not mean pirates remained permanently intoxicated. A drunken crew attempting to navigate reefs or fight a naval frigate would likely enjoy an exceptionally brief career. Experienced captains understood this perfectly. Rum was common. Constant drunkenness was not. Hollywood, once again, has generously exaggerated matters. Because apparently pirates fighting while barely able to stand seemed more entertaining than pirates carefully maintaining ropes for 6 uninterrupted hours. History can be disappointingly practical. Breakfast, if that optimistic word may be used, rarely inspired poetry. Fresh food vanished quickly after leaving port. Fruit disappeared first. Vegetables followed. Fresh meat spoiled unless heavily salted. Within weeks, diets became painfully repetitive. Hardtack formed the foundation of maritime survival. Calling hardtack bread feels rather generous. It resembled a dense biscuit baked until nearly all moisture disappeared. Properly stored, it lasted months. Unfortunately, eating it often required determination bordering on heroism. Many sailors softened hardtack by dipping it into soup, stew, coffee, beer, or whatever liquid happened to be available. Otherwise, biting directly into one wrist, introducing your teeth to several exciting new career opportunities. Even worse, insects love hardtack almost as much as sailors did. Open one carelessly, and tiny weevils might greet you before breakfast. Eventually, many sailors simply stopped removing them. Extra protein after all, because of course they did. Salted beef appeared frequently, although beef occasionally became an optimistic interpretation rather than a guaranteed fact. Months inside barrels transformed meat into something astonishingly tough, astonishingly salty, and astonishingly difficult to identify. Fish supplemented meals whenever crews managed successful catches. Sometimes they ate turtles, sometimes seabirds, sometimes whatever happened to wander too close to hungry sailors armed with remarkable creativity. Nobody aboard expected fine dining. Survival set remarkably modest culinary standards. Of course, poor nutrition eventually invited another passenger aboard every ship: disease. It arrived without paying fare. Scurvy remains perhaps the most infamous illness associated with sailors, and deservedly so. Today we know it results from vitamin C deficiency. The solution appears wonderfully simple. Eat fruit. The unfortunate detail was that fresh citrus disappeared long before many voyages ended. Weeks became months. Months became seasons. Then strange symptoms emerged. Gums swelled painfully. Old wounds reopened. Teeth loosened. Bruises appeared seemingly without cause. Strength vanished. Men who had survived storms and cannon fire gradually found themselves unable to climb ladders. Some died, not because enemies defeated them, but because oranges proved surprisingly difficult to preserve. History occasionally delivers lessons with remarkable irony. Pirates searched desperately for gold while unknowingly needing lemons far more. Scurvy was hardly alone. Dysentery swept through crowded ships with terrifying efficiency. Typhus spread wherever lice flourished. Malaria haunted tropical waters. Yellow fever could erase entire crews. Small cuts became infected. Broken bones healed poorly. Simple fevers sometimes ended promising lives within days. Doctors rarely accompanied pirate vessels. Even naval surgeons possessed limited knowledge by modern standards. Pirates usually depended upon practical experience, herbal remedies, alcohol, crude surgery, and optimism. Optimism, unfortunately, proved medically inconsistent. Imagine losing a finger while loading cannon. The wound becomes infected. Your hand swells. Fever follows. Someone suggests amputating the arm. Another pirate hands you rum. A third holds you still. There is no anesthesia, no antibiotics, no sterile operating room. Only a saw. Sleep suddenly sounds considerably more appealing than remaining awake for the next few minutes. If you survived, everyone considered the procedure remarkably successful. The sea rewarded resilience because it rarely offered alternatives. Despite these hardships, pirate crews often established written agreements governing life aboard ship. These documents, sometimes called pirate articles, form surprisingly sophisticated systems of shared expectations. Every crew developed its own rules. Some outlined exactly how treasure would be divided. Others specified compensation for injuries. Lose an arm, receive additional shares. Lose an eye, compensation. Lose a leg, more compensation. It sounds strangely modern. Almost like an early workers' insurance policy created by armed criminals floating illegally across the Caribbean. History enjoys unexpected contradictions. The articles also established discipline. Stealing from fellow pirates invited severe punishment. Cowardice during battle endangered everyone. Fighting among crewmates disrupted efficiency. Gambling occasionally became restricted. Lights might require extinguishing at certain hours to reduce fire risks. Every rule reflected experience purchased through previous mistakes. Pirates understood something many governments struggled to appreciate. Chaos destroys everyone equally. Even criminals needed order, especially criminals. Captains, contrary to legend, did not enjoy unlimited authority. Many held remarkable power during battle, but much less during ordinary life. Quartermasters often represented crew interests, balancing captain authority with collective decision-making. If a captain became excessively cruel, incompetent, cowardly, or simply unpopular, removal remained entirely possible. Imagine explaining this political arrangement to several European monarchs. We elect our leaders aboard this stolen ship. It would have produced wonderfully confused expressions. None of this transformed pirate society into a utopia. Violence remained common. Punishments could still be severe. Leadership often depended upon charisma backed by loaded pistols. Yet compared with many merchant vessels where captains ruled absolutely, pirate ships sometimes appeared astonishingly egalitarian. Not because pirates were saints, because practical cooperation increased everyone's chances of survival. The sea rewarded competence far more reliably than noble birth. If the captain could not navigate, if the gunner misunderstood cannon, if the helmsman panicked, everyone drowned together. Ocean water possessed wonderfully democratic qualities. Rank mattered very little beneath the surface. As afternoon sunlight baked the deck, work continued relentlessly. Sails required adjustment with every changing wind. Lookouts scanned horizons endlessly through narrowed eyes. Carpenters inspected hull damage. Gunners cleaned cannon already coated with salty residue. Powder remained carefully protected from moisture. One careless spark could transform the ship into an impressively brief fireworks display. Every sailor knew precisely where buckets stood. Fire terrified seafarers almost more than storms. A wooden ship floating far from land had nowhere to escape. Flames consumed tar. Tar ignited rope. Rope carried fire upward into sails. Powder exploded. The sea watched silently. It always did. As evening approached, conversation gradually replaced the constant rhythm of labor. Stories drifted across the deck. Some true. Many improved considerably through repeated telling. Sailors described strange islands where birds ignored humans completely. Others insisted sea monsters followed certain trade routes. Someone claimed mermaids had once attempted conversation. Another swore ghosts sailed abandoned vessels through heavy fog. No one entirely believed every story. No one entirely dismissed them either. Spend enough nights surrounded by endless darkness, and imagination begins filling empty horizons remarkably efficiently. Stars emerged one by one. Far from cities, the night sky appeared almost impossibly crowded. Constellations guided navigation long before satellites existed. Experienced sailors learned every familiar pattern overhead. Clouds obscured them. Storms erased them. But on clear nights, the heavens became both compass and companion. There is something profoundly humbling about standing on a wooden deck hundreds of miles from land while looking upward at stars that sailors, explorers, merchants, and fishermen had followed for thousands of years. Empires rose beneath those stars. Empires fell. The constellations scarcely noticed. Somewhere below, waves whispered endlessly against the hull. Someone laughed quietly near the bow. Another sailor coughed deep within the darkness. A lantern swung gently, casting moving shadows across worn planks polished smooth by countless bare feet. For one peaceful hour, the ship almost felt like a home. Almost. Then the lookout suddenly shouted, "Sail on the horizon." Every comfortable thought vanished instantly, because tomorrow's sunrise might bring fortune, or battle, or death. Aboard a pirate ship, those possibilities were often separated only by the distance between two sails meeting beneath an empty sky. And somewhere beyond that dark horizon, another crew, equally tired, equally hungry, equally human, had no idea that history, violence, and fate were already sailing toward them with the morning wind. When the black flag appeared on the horizon, there are few moments in history that inspired such immediate, instinctive fear as the sight of an unfamiliar sail appearing where moments before there had been nothing but sea and sky. The ocean has a curious way of making distances feel deceptive. A ship that looked no larger than a seabird during breakfast could become a towering silhouette by noon. Experienced sailors understood this better than anyone. Every pair of eyes aboard constantly searched the horizon, not because they expected excitement, but because surprises at sea were usually unpleasant. Very unpleasant. Imagine standing the morning watch. The sun has only recently climbed above the eastern horizon, painting the Atlantic with ribbons of gold that dance across gentle swells. Flying fish leap from the water. The breeze is steady, warm, almost comforting. Somewhere behind you, a cook is arguing with a barrel that apparently refuses to surrender breakfast. It feels, for one miraculous hour, like the sea has decided to behave itself. Then someone points. There. Nothing more. Just one word. Every sailor turns. At first you see nothing. Then a tiny white triangle. A sail. Hours away. Perhaps. Maybe farther. Maybe closer. No one can tell. The captain reaches for his spyglass. Conversation stops. The mood changes so quickly that it almost feels physical. Because every ship carried questions before it carried answers. Who are they? Where are they going? Are they armed? Are they friendly? Will they leave us alone? Or are we about to become tomorrow's cautionary tale in some distant tavern? For pirates, every unidentified vessel represented possibility. For merchants, every unidentified vessel represented anxiety. The sea rewarded caution. Overconfidence generally became someone else's problem to clean up. Pirates rarely attacked blindly. That image, the wild outlaw charging recklessly toward every ship he encountered, belongs mostly to fiction. A successful pirate captain behaved less like a reckless adventurer and more like an experienced businessman with absolutely terrible legal representation. Before attacking, they observed. They measured speed, estimated cargo, counted visible cannon, studied rigging, watched how efficiently the crew handled sails. An experienced, I could read another ship almost like a book. A slow vessel riding low in the water probably carried valuable cargo. A heavily armed naval frigate usually carried something considerably less valuable. Trouble. Merchant captains understood this game as well. The moment an unknown ship altered course toward them, everyone aboard noticed. Sometimes the crew quietly prepared weapons. Sometimes they prayed. Sometimes they simply accepted that events were now unfolding beyond their control. There was another detail that popular culture has turned into one of history's most recognizable symbols. The pirate flag. The famous black banner decorated with a skull and crossed bones, or occasionally skeletons, hourglasses, bleeding hearts, or spears, has become almost synonymous with piracy itself. Yet reality was, naturally, more complicated. Not every pirate flew the same flag. Many captains designed their own. Some preferred terrifying skeletons raising cups to death itself. Others showed devils stabbing hearts. One displayed an hourglass, a simple reminder that your remaining time was rapidly disappearing. These flags were not decorations. They were psychological weapons. Modern advertising agencies might quietly admire the branding. The purpose wasn't always to fight. Quite the opposite. A pirate attack became far more profitable if nobody resisted. A damaged merchant ship produced less valuable cargo. Dead sailors could not help unload supplies. Pirates wanted surrender. Quickly, cleanly, without wasting ammunition or lives. Sometimes pirates approached under false colors, flying the flag of another nation to avoid suspicion. Only when they closed the distance would they suddenly raise the black flag. The message required no lengthy explanation. Surrender now, or the next conversation becomes considerably louder. Occasionally, they raised a red flag instead. That was even worse. The red banner often suggested no mercy would be given. No negociations. No quarter. Fortunately, many merchant captains understood exactly what these signals meant. They had families, crews, investments, lives. Heroic last stands sound magnificent in novels. They become considerably less attractive when several dozen cannon are pointing directly at your chest. Many ships surrendered without firing a shot, not because sailors lacked courage, because survival often represented the wiser form of bravery. Still, not every encounter ended peacefully. Some captains resisted, sometimes out of duty, sometimes pride, sometimes because they carried military escorts, sometimes because they believed they could win, sometimes because surrender promised punishment anyway. And so the battle began. Contrary to Hollywood, naval combat rarely resembled graceful ships circling dramatically while exchanging endless broadsides beneath spectacular explosions. Actual engagements were noisy, confusing, chaotic, and frightening beyond easy description. The first cannon fired with a thunderous crack that echoed across open water. Smoke instantly filled the air. Not a thin cloud, a dense wall of white powder smoke that drifted across the deck, reducing visibility almost immediately. Cannons were powerful. They were also astonishingly slow to reload. Every shot required teamwork. Sponge the barrel, load powder, ram the charge, insert the cannonball, aim, fire, repeat. Each discharge shook the entire ship. The deck vibrated beneath your boots. Your ears rang. Splinters flew whenever enemy shots struck wooden hulls. Those splinters proved almost as deadly as the cannonballs themselves. One iron ball smashing through oak could send razor-sharp fragments exploding across the deck. A sailor might survive the cannonball entirely, then die from flying wood. History possesses an unsettling talent for unexpected methods. The air quickly became impossible to breathe comfortably. Smoke mixed with burning powder, sweat, fear, salt spray, and shouted commands. You struggled to hear. You struggled to see. You struggled simply to remain standing as the ship rolled beneath your feet. Above all else, you struggled not to panic, because panic spreads faster than fire aboard a crowded vessel. Pirates generally preferred boarding actions. Cannon weakened resistance. Boarding decided ownership. As ships drew closer, sailors prepared grappling hooks attached to heavy ropes. These hooks slammed into enemy rails. Men hauled the vessels together with astonishing speed. The gap between ships narrowed until the hulls crashed against one another with a sound like collapsing buildings. Then came perhaps the most terrifying moment of all. Silence, just for a heartbeat, a single breath, and then everyone moved. Pirates surged across narrow planks, swinging from rigging or simply leaping between decks whenever courage exceeded common sense. Merchant sailors met them with muskets, pistols, pikes, axes, clubs, knives, and anything else capable of discouraging unwanted visitors. This was no elegant duel, no choreographed sword fight, no witty exchange before blades crossed. Boarding combat became an explosion of confusion compressed into astonishingly small spaces. Men slipped on wet planks. Muskets misfired. Pistols fired once before becoming expensive clubs. Cutlasses clanged together. Someone screamed. Someone prayed. Someone disappeared beneath the crush. The deck itself transformed. Only minutes earlier it had been a workplace. Now it became a battlefield. Blood mixed with seawater. Loose rope-tangled boots. Broken barrels rolled unpredictably. Smoke drifted between shouting figures. Every corner concealed danger. Training mattered. Experience mattered. Luck mattered most. Veteran pirates understood that terror itself could become a weapon. Many cultivated fear deliberately. Beards grew wild. Hair hung loose. Bright sashes, pistols tucked into belts, scars earned honestly, and clothing stolen dishonestly all combined into intimidating appearances. One captain became particularly famous for weaving slow-burning fuses into his enormous beard before battle. The burning cords surrounded his face with curling smoke. Imagine seeing that figure emerging through cannon smoke carrying multiple pistols. Psychological warfare accomplished exactly what it intended. People hesitated, and hesitation often determined survival. Yet beneath these terrifying appearances remained ordinary human beings. Hungry, tired, sunburned, often frightened themselves. Pirates feared battle every bit as much as their victims. The difference was simple. They had chosen a profession where battle paid better than farming. That choice came with consequences. Not every pirate survived long enough to regret it. Medical treatment during combat barely existed. If wounded, a sailor hoped only that the injury looked less severe than it felt. A musket ball lodged inside flesh usually remained there unless someone attempted extraction with instruments that appeared more enthusiastic than hygienic. Sword cuts varied enormously. Some healed, others never did. A shattered limb frequently meant amputation. Infection followed many survivors ashore. Victory guaranteed nothing. Defeat guaranteed very little either. Captured pirates faced trials. The outcomes rarely surprised anyone. Governments understood symbolism. Public executions discouraged future recruits. Merchant crews understood symbolism too. Many resisted because capture threatened imprisonment, ransom, or worse. The stakes remained painfully clear to everyone involved. Curiously, despite their violent reputation, pirates often exercised surprising restraint once a ship surrendered. Dead merchants could not reveal hidden cargo. Terrified prisoners frequently cooperated remarkably well. Many pirate crews accepted surrender quickly, confiscated valuables, useful supplies, navigational charts, weapons, food, alcohol, and occasionally recruited skilled sailors willing, or persuaded, to join them. Violence certainly occurred, Brutality undeniably happened. Some captains became infamous for extraordinary cruelty. Others preferred efficiency. A reputation for accepting surrender actually benefited business. Fear encouraged compliance. Needless slaughter encouraged resistance. Practicality sometimes proved more powerful than cruelty. After all, piracy revolved around profit, not destruction, although the distinction undoubtedly offered limited comfort to those being robbed. Hours later, once the smoke finally drifted away and the sea resumed its endless rhythm, both ships looked different. Sails hung in ribbons. Masts leaned awkwardly. Wood bore fresh scars. Blood-stained decks already weathered by years of salt. Broken weapons lay forgotten where exhausted hands had dropped them. The ocean itself appeared strangely unchanged. The same waves continued rolling beneath the hull. The same gulls circled overhead. The same wind filled damaged sails. Nature rarely paused to acknowledge human violence. It simply carried both victors and victims toward whatever waited beyond the next horizon. As evening settled over the Caribbean, pirate crews repaired rigging, counted supplies, treated wounded companions, and inventoried captured cargo beneath lantern light. Someone laughed with relief. Someone mourned quietly. Someone stared across dark water, thinking about home. Perhaps a mother waiting beside an English harbor. Perhaps children who believed their fathers still sailed honestly. Perhaps no one at all. Life at sea had a way of dissolving old identities. A farmer became a sailor. A sailor became a pirate. A pirate became a corpse. Sometimes all within the span of a single voyage. The stars emerged once more, indifferent witnesses to another day of human ambition played out upon an ocean far older than kings, empires, or flags. Tomorrow would bring another sunrise. Another lookout scanning empty horizons. Another decision. Another chase. Because aboard a pirate ship, peace was never permanent. It was merely the quiet stretch of water between storms, between battles, and between the next distant sail that would appear impossibly small at first, where the sea touched the sky. The men who ruled by fear, luck, and a very fragile democracy. By the time the smoke from the last battle had drifted away into the Caribbean sky, something rather strange had happened aboard the pirate ship. Everyone had survived another day, and somehow, that almost felt unusual. Life at sea had an odd relationship with time. On land, people measured their lives by seasons, harvests, birthdays, and church bells. A farmer knew when spring arrived because new shoots appeared in the fields. A merchant counted months by successful trades. A king counted years by wars won and taxes collected. A pirate counted time differently. The last storm, the last battle, the last time someone fell overboard, the last barrel of fresh water, the last friend buried beneath the waves. Every memory became attached to survival rather than dates. Ask a pirate what year it was, and he might hesitate. Ask him how many hurricanes he had lived through, and the answer would probably arrive immediately. It is tempting to imagine pirate captains as larger-than-life figures who were somehow born fearless. Men who emerged into the world already carrying pistols and speaking with impossibly dramatic voices. Reality, once again, proves far more interesting. Most pirate captains had once been ordinary sailors. They hauled ropes, scrubbed decks, obeyed cruel officers, slept in cramped quarters, endured storms, went hungry. They climbed, quite literally, from the bottom of the ship upward. Leadership was not inherited. It had to be earned, or stolen, sometimes both. Unlike the rigid navies of Europe, where noble birth often mattered almost as much as competence, pirate crews usually preferred captains who had already demonstrated that they could keep everyone alive. The sea cared very little whether your grandfather owned an estate. It cared a great deal whether you could read changing winds. This created one of history's great contradictions. A pirate ship, an organization dedicated entirely to theft, could at times be remarkably meritocratic. If you were brave, clever, experienced, and fortunate enough not to be shot first, promotion remained possible. That did not mean everyone got along. Far from it. Imagine placing 100 exhausted, heavily armed men inside a floating wooden box no longer than a modern football field. Now remove privacy. Remove personal space. Remove fresh food. Remove reliable sleep. Add alcohol. Add fear. Add months without seeing home. Then expect everyone to cooperate. The surprising thing is not that arguments occurred. The surprising thing is that the ship remained afloat at all. Disagreements erupted constantly. One sailor accused another of stealing tobacco. Someone complained about unequal shares. Another insisted the captain had become too cautious. Someone else believed the captain was not cautious enough. Because naturally, every crew contained several men absolutely convinced they could command the ship better than the person currently doing so. Some things, it seems, never change. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, pirates developed methods for settling disputes. Sometimes the matter ended with a vote. Sometimes fists solved the disagreement. Sometimes pistols. The exact outcome depended heavily upon the personalities involved. Many pirate crews prohibited unnecessary violence aboard ship. This sounds surprisingly civilized until you remember they were perfectly willing to use violence against everyone else. Again, history enjoys complicated people. One particularly fascinating office aboard many pirate ships belonged not to the captain, but to the quartermaster. Modern audiences often overlook this position. They shouldn't. The quartermaster acted almost like a representative of the crew. He supervised the division of loot, resolved disagreements, protected sailors from captains who became overly ambitious, enforced agreed rules, distributed supplies. In some cases, the quartermaster possessed authority nearly equal to the captain whenever battle was not actively taking place. Imagine explaining that arrangement to an 18th century king. So, your criminals have checks and balances? Yes. And they vote. Also yes. And they rob everyone? Very much so. Human societies often organize themselves in wonderfully unexpected ways. This balance of power existed for practical reasons. Absolute authority frequently led to abuse. Abuse inspired mutiny. Mutiny shortened careers dramatically. No captain wanted to wake one morning and discover his crew had politely replaced him overnight. Pirates understood incentives. A respected captain lived longer. A feared captain slept lightly. There is another image that history has exaggerated until it almost becomes comedy. The pirate captain standing over a map marked with an enormous red X. Treasure buried here. It makes for wonderful storytelling. Unfortunately, reality stubbornly refused to cooperate. Most pirates had little interest in burying treasure. Think about it. Imagine risking your life attacking armed merchant ships, surviving hurricanes, avoiding the Royal Navy, escaping disease, then finally obtaining gold. Would your first instinct really be to dig a hole, hide everything, and hope nobody else found it? Probably not. Most pirate wealth disappeared astonishingly quickly. Money purchased clothing, weapons, alcohol, food, entertainment, repairs, bribes, and occasionally brief attempts at respectable living before someone recognized them. Pirates generally spent fortunes with remarkable enthusiasm. Saving for retirement rarely entered the conversation. Retirement itself remained an optimistic concept. The average pirate career proved surprisingly short. Many lasted only 2 or 3 years. Some ended after a single voyage. A handful became famous. Thousands vanished without leaving so much as a proper grave. The sea accepted everyone equally. Success created another unexpected problem. The richer a pirate captain became, the more governments wished to catch him. Rewards increased. Naval patrols expanded. Merchants traveled with escorts. Former friends became informants. Imagine living every day knowing that your face hangs on wanted posters across half the Atlantic. Every unfamiliar ship might carry soldiers. Every port might contain spies. Every tavern conversation could become evidence. Trust slowly evaporated. Paranoia quietly replaced confidence. Many famous pirates spent as much time hiding as fighting. And hiding aboard the open ocean is rather like attempting to disappear inside an empty room. Sooner or later, someone notices. Still, pirate crews experienced moments of genuine celebration. After a successful capture, especially one yielding valuable cargo, the atmosphere transformed completely. Barrels were rolled onto the deck. Music appeared from somewhere. There always seemed to be someone capable of playing a fiddle. Someone else found a drum. Voices rose into songs carried away by warm evening winds. The dancing probably looked less graceful than later paintings suggest. Imagine sailors whose knees permanently ached from climbing rigging, attempting enthusiastic jigs after several cups of rum. Elegant is perhaps not the word. Happy certainly was. For one evening, tomorrow's dangers faded. Men laughed. Stories grew larger. Victories became more impressive with every retelling. A cannonball narrowly missing someone's head gradually transformed into 3 cannonballs, then 5, until eventually the storyteller appeared almost personally responsible for frightening the entire British Navy into retreat. Memory has always been wonderfully creative, yet celebrations remain brief. The ocean possessed little patience for complacency. The following morning, someone still had to repair torn sails, clean weapons, inspect leaking barrels, replace damaged rigging, scrape barnacles, patch all planks. Victory did not reduce maintenance. If anything, it increased it. Every battle left scars, not only on men, on ships. What absorbs history? Every repaired plank covered an older wound. Every fresh rope replaced one that had snapped. Every patch upon a sail whispered of another storm survived. An old pirate ship resembled an aging soldier, still standing, covered in scars, held together partly by skill, partly by determination, and perhaps just a little by stubbornness. One aspect of pirate life modern audiences rarely consider involves simple boredom. Not every day brought battle. Not every week revealed treasure. Sometimes nothing happened. Nothing at all. Days stretched endlessly beneath cloudless skies. The horizon remained empty. Wind barely stirred the sails. The ship drifted slowly across shimmering blue water while the crew repeated familiar routines hour after hour. Humans are remarkably inventive when attempting to entertain themselves. Some sailors carved intricate patterns into bits of wood. Others mended clothing. Many gambled with cards or dice despite rules discouraging it. Stories circulated endlessly. Arguments erupted over topics now impossible to reconstruct. Someone undoubtedly insisted they had once seen an octopus larger than the ship itself. Someone else insisted they had not. Thus passed another afternoon. These quiet periods often proved psychologically difficult. Without immediate danger demanding complete attention, thoughts wandered. Men remembered home. They remembered wives, children, parents growing older, fields that would soon need harvesting, brothers who perhaps believed they were already dead. The sea isolates not only the body, it isolates memory. After enough months, home begins to feel less like a place and more like a dream. Some pirates discovered they no longer belonged anywhere. Too criminal to return comfortably. Too restless to settle. Too accustomed to constant motion. The ship became the only home remaining. A home built from oak, canvas, rope, and uncertainty. Then there were the nights. Moonless nights. The kind where sea and sky merged into one endless darkness. Lanterns were kept dim. Voices softened. Every sound traveled astonishing distances across still water. The creak of the rudder. The flap of loose canvas. The distant splash of something surfacing briefly before disappearing again. Whales occasionally exhaled nearby with explosive breaths that startled inexperienced sailors. Dolphins followed ships through black water, invisible except for pale trails of glowing plankton swirling around their bodies. To 18th century sailors, the ocean often seemed enchanted. Not because they were foolish, because they witnessed things most people never would. Bioluminescent seas looked supernatural. Towering waterspouts appeared almost divine. Lightning striking distant storms illuminated entire horizons. Nature regularly performed spectacles beyond ordinary imagination. Little wonder sailors filled the unknown with myths. Many believed ghosts haunted certain waters. Others feared cursed islands. Some refused to whistle aboard ship, convinced it summoned storms. Certain birds became omens. Certain dreams warnings. Rationality survives comfortably on land. At sea, surrounded by forces vastly larger than yourself, superstition quietly slips aboard, almost unnoticed, almost welcomed, because believing you understand danger, even incorrectly, feels better than admitting complete helplessness. Near midnight, the watch changed. Fresh sailors climbed onto deck while exhausted companions disappeared below. The stars wheeled slowly overhead. The compass pointed faithfully north. The ship continued forward, always forward. Behind it stretched a fading trail across black water that vanished almost immediately. No footprints remained, no roads, no lasting marks, only memory. And memory, like the sea itself, has an unfortunate habit of changing shape with every passing wave. By dawn, another day would begin exactly as the previous one had ended, with endless ocean in every direction, uncertain fortunes waiting somewhere beyond the horizon, and one simple truth quietly understood by every soul aboard. The greatest danger on a pirate ship was not always the Royal Navy, nor the storms, nor disease. Sometimes, it was the men standing beside you. Storms, shipwrecks, and the ocean that hunted everyone. For all the terrifying stories told about pirates, there was one enemy that every captain, whether pirate, merchant, naval officer, or explorer, respected with exactly the same quiet fear. The sea itself. The ocean did not care whether a ship flew the Union Jack, the Spanish Cross of Burgundy, the French fleur-de-lis, or the infamous Black Flag. It did not pause to consider who deserved mercy. It did not reward courage or punish cruelty. It held no opinions about kings, governments, criminals, or honest sailors. It simply existed, ancient, immense, patient, and occasionally unimaginably violent. There's an old saying among sailors that the sea is never conquered, only borrowed from, one voyage at a time. The men aboard pirate ships understood that better than almost anyone. A successful captain might evade naval patrols for years. He might defeat merchant vessels one after another. He might survive mutinies, tropical diseases, and close calls with the gallows. Then, on an otherwise ordinary afternoon, a storm could erase everything in less than 6 hours. History contains countless famous battles. It contains even more forgotten shipwrecks. Most happen quietly, with no witnesses except the waves. Imagine another morning in the Caribbean. The sky is almost painfully blue. The breeze is gentle enough that the sails barely strain against their rigging. Flying fish scatter across the water like handfuls of silver coins thrown by invisible hands. A sailor high in the tops whistles softly as he scans the horizon. Everything feels peaceful, almost suspiciously so. Experienced sailors often distrusted calm weather, not because calm itself was dangerous, because the ocean rarely remained predictable for long. The first warning might be almost invisible, a subtle shift in the wind, clouds gathering far beyond the western horizon, the air becoming strangely heavy, birds disappearing. Even the sea itself sometimes changed color, darkening beneath distant shadows long before rain arrived. The captain notices. He says very little. He simply studies the sky for a few moments. Then comes the order. Shorten sail. Immediately, the atmosphere aboard changes. No shouting, no panic, only speed. Everyone knows exactly what must happen. Men scramble into the rigging with astonishing confidence, climbing ropes that sway dozens of feet above the deck. Canvas is reefed, loose equipment secured, barrels tied down, cannons lashed tightly into position, hatches sealed. Anything not fastened becomes a weapon once the ship begins to roll. Every sailor has seen what a loose cannon can do. Imagine an iron object weighing more than a small horse suddenly sliding across a sloping deck. It crushes barrels, splinters walls, breaks bones, destroys everything unfortunate enough to stand in its path. The expression loose cannon survived long after wooden warships disappeared for a very good reason. Then, the wind arrives, not gradually, almost suddenly. The sails snap so violently they sound like enormous gunshots. Rigging begins to hum. The ship heels sharply to one side. Men instinctively grab ropes, rails, or anything solid. Rain follows. Not gentle rain. Walls of water driven sideways by screaming wind. Within minutes, every sailor is soaked. The deck becomes dangerously slippery. Commands must now be shouted directly into someone's ear just to be understood. The storm has swallowed every other sound. This is the point where modern audiences often imagine pirate captains standing dramatically at the wheel, hair blowing heroically while lightning flashes behind them. Reality was considerably less theatrical. The captain was usually soaked, exhausted, cold, probably frightened, and entirely focused on keeping everyone alive. Heroic poses become remarkably unimportant when 40-foot waves are attempting to dismantle your ship. The ocean transforms completely. The smooth surface that reflected the morning sun now rises into enormous moving hills of water. Each wave lifts the vessel high into the air before dropping it violently into another valley. Everything groans. Everything shakes. The ship sounds alive. Wood bends. Timbers creak so loudly that newcomers often believe the vessel is breaking apart. Oddly enough, those creaking sounds are reassuring. They mean the ship is flexing as designed. Silence. Silence is far more frightening. Then lightning tears across the sky. For one brilliant instant, the entire world becomes visible. Mountains of water, foaming white spray, sails straining against impossible forces, faces frozen between concentration and fear. Then darkness returns. Only the rain remains. Every sailor aboard understands one simple truth. Nobody is in control. Not really. The captain can make decisions. The crew can work together. The ship can endure astonishing punishment. But ultimately, the storm decides. The sea always casts the final vote. One particularly terrifying danger involved rogue waves. Even today, they remain difficult to predict. Imagine an already violent ocean. Now imagine one wave appearing that is dramatically larger than everything surrounding it. A wall of water, perhaps twice as high, perhaps more. Sailors described them almost with disbelief. Many who survived insisted such waves looked impossible. Some ships simply vanished after meeting them. No distress signal, no reiki, only absence. For families waiting at home, that uncertainty proved especially cruel. Did the ship sink? Was it captured? Did everyone survive somewhere on a distant island? Weeks became months. Months became years. Hope slowly faded. No answers ever arrived. The Atlantic keeps remarkable secrets. Not all of them have been found. Below deck during a storm, conditions became almost unbearable. Imagine darkness interrupted only by swinging lanterns that throw frantic shadows across the walls. Water leaks through seams overhead. Barrels shift despite careful securing. The floor rises and falls beneath your feet so violently that walking becomes almost impossible. Every object seems determined to collide with every other object. Then there is the sound. Constant thunder. Timber protesting under enormous strain. Wind screaming through rigging. Water smashing against the hull with astonishing force. Occasionally something cracks loudly enough that every sailor freezes. What was that? No one knows. No one has time to investigate. Because another wave is already arriving. Some men pray. Others curse. Some become strangely quiet. Veteran sailors often focused entirely upon routine. Tie this rope. Check that hatch. Pump water. Repeat. Work becomes a form of courage. As long as there is something useful to do, fear remains manageable. Idleness invites panic. Pirate ships depended heavily upon manual pumps. No wooden vessel remained perfectly watertight. Every ship leaked. The question was never whether water entered the hull. The question was whether crews could remove it faster than it entered. During severe storms, sailors pumped almost continuously, hour after exhausting hour. Their shoulders burned, hands blistered, sleep disappeared. Stop pumping long enough. The water gained. Too much water. The ship grew heavier, slower, lower, eventually gone. Many pirate vessels disappeared exactly this way. Not through spectacular battles, not through famous naval victories, simply through exhaustion. A crew unable to keep ahead of the sea. The irony would not have been lost on them. After surviving cannon fire and swords, they were defeated by buckets. When dawn finally arrived, assuming dawn arrived at all, the storm rarely left the ship unchanged. Masts snapped, rigging tangled into impossible knots, sails shredded into ribbons. Boats carried on deck vanished completely. Barrels broke open, food spoiled, freshwater casks contaminated by seawater. Sometimes entire sections of railing disappeared. Occasionally crew members disappeared too. A single enormous wave washing across the deck could carry a man into the ocean before anyone realized what had happened. There were no rescue helicopters, no life jackets, no emergency beacons. Throwing a rope into hurricane-force seas offered little comfort. Within seconds, the ship had already drifted away. Imagine watching a friend vanish into gray water. You cannot stop. You cannot turn around. Not because you do not care, because trying would kill everyone else aboard. Some decisions at sea offered no happy endings, only the least terrible option. When the weather finally cleared, silence returned almost awkwardly. The ocean that had spent hours roaring with unimaginable violence suddenly behaved as though nothing unusual had occurred. Sunlight reflected off gentle swells. Birds reappeared. Clouds drifted lazily toward the horizon. Nature possesses an extraordinary ability to erase evidence of its own fury. The ship, however, remembered everything. Every cracked beam, every torn sail, every exhausted sailor asleep wherever he happened to collapse. Repair work began immediately. It always did. Canvas was stitched, ropes replaced, broken spars cut away, leaks plugged. The carpenter became one of the busiest men aboard. A skilled ship's carpenter could mean the difference between reaching the next port or joining the countless wrecks scattered across the ocean floor. They were, in many ways, the ship's doctors, treating wood instead of flesh. Sometimes both. Shipwrecks haunted every sailor's imagination, not merely because of drowning, but because survival often introduced entirely new forms of suffering. A crew stranded upon a tiny island faced impossible calculations. Was there fresh water? Food? Shelter? Would another ship ever pass nearby? Some deserted islands became accidental prisons. Others became graves. Occasionally, survivors built small boats from wreckage and attempted impossible journeys across open water. Some succeeded. Many did not. The sea admired determination. It simply never promised to reward it. Interestingly, pirates sometimes feared shallow water more than deep water. Deep ocean offered room to maneuver. Hidden reefs did not. Coral reefs lurked just beneath crystal-clear tropical water, almost invisible under certain lighting conditions. One slight navigational mistake, one poorly drawn chart, one unexpected current. The ship scraped bottom. Wood splintered. Water rushed inward. The voyage ended abruptly. Entire fortunes disappeared beneath only a few feet of water. Some remain there today, quietly resting beneath coral gardens where colorful fish swim through old cannon and broken anchors, entirely unaware that they are drifting through forgotten chapters of human history. As night fell after one particularly exhausting storm, the pirate ship floated beneath a sky so brilliantly clear that it almost seemed impossible the same heavens had unleashed such violence only hours earlier. The crew spoke quietly, too tired for celebration, too grateful for complaints. Someone carefully mended a torn sleeve by lantern light. Another sharpened a cutlass whose edge had rusted from endless salt spray. The cook somehow managed another meal from supplies that had survived. It was not especially good. No one cared. Warm food tasted like victory. The captain stood near the stern, studying the stars. Not because he admired them, because tomorrow they would help determine the ship's course once again. There would be more merchant ships, more opportunities, more dangers, perhaps another storm, perhaps another battle. Out here, survival was never something achieved permanently. It had to be earned again every single sunrise. And somewhere beyond that peaceful horizon, where moonlight shimmered across the endless Atlantic like liquid silver, the sea waited with infinite patience. It had been swallowing ships for thousands of years before pirates ever existed. It would continue long after the last black flag disappeared beneath the waves. Compared to the ocean, even a most feared pirate was only a temporary visitor. Hunger, disease, and the invisible enemies below deck. If battles made pirates famous, and storms made them humble, then disease made them equal. The sea has a peculiar way of stripping away every illusion a person carries aboard. A wealthy merchant could stand beside a penniless deckhand. A feared pirate captain could share the same cramped quarters as the youngest cabin boy. A master navigator who could read the stars better than anyone alive could still be reduced to trembling with fever because an infected mosquito happened to choose him over someone else. Nature has never shown much respect for reputation. And aboard a pirate ship, nature was an ever-present passenger. Long before the first cannon was fired, long before the first merchant ship surrendered, another battle was already taking place beneath the decks. It was silent, invisible, and often impossible to win. Imagine opening one of the ship's food barrels after 6 weeks at sea. You expect salted beef. Instead, a sour smell rises immediately. The meat has begun to spoil. Another barrel contains flour, or what remains of it. Moisture has seeped inside. The flour has become a damp gray paste crawling with tiny insects. The biscuit barrel looks more promising, until someone cracks open a piece of hardtack and dozens of little weevils scatter across the table. No one throws it away. There isn't enough food for that kind of luxury. Instead, someone taps the biscuit against the side of the barrel to shake loose as many insects as possible. Then he eats the rest anyway, because hunger has always been remarkably persuasive. Modern supermarkets have quietly spoiled us. If one loaf of bread looks questionable, we simply choose another. A pirate had exactly one option: eat it, or remain hungry. There was very little in between. Water presented an entirely different challenge. Fresh water left inside wooden casks slowly became something that could only generously be described as water. Algae formed. What flavored it? Tiny organisms multiplied happily. Sometimes worms appeared. The smell alone discouraged drinking. The problem, of course, was that dehydration proved even less enjoyable. Many sailors learned to swallow without thinking too much about what they were swallowing. It is astonishing what the human body can adapt to when given absolutely no alternatives. Pirates often mixed water with rum or beer, not merely because they enjoyed drinking, but because it helped disguise unpleasant tastes and occasionally made questionable water somewhat safer. It was not a perfect solution. Far from it. But perfection rarely sailed aboard pirate ships. Even eating itself became surprisingly dangerous. Vitamin deficiencies slowly attacked the body in ways sailors could not understand. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then fatigue appeared. Then bleeding gums. Then teeth loosened. Old scars reopened, as if the body had suddenly forgotten how healing worked. Legs swelled painfully. Simple bruises refused to disappear. Eventually, even climbing a ladder became exhausting. Today we know this as scurvy. The cure was almost laughably simple. Fresh citrus, lemons, limes, oranges. But aboard a pirate ship drifting hundreds of miles from land, simple cures often became impossible dreams. One sailor might survive cannon fire only to lose his life because no orange had been seen for 3 months. History possesses a deeply ironic sense of humor. The search for gold destroyed countless men who would have gladly traded every coin they owned for a single piece of fresh fruit. Then there were fevers. The Caribbean looked like paradise from a distance. Crystal blue water, palm trees, warm sunshine, white beaches. Travel brochures today would happily stop the description there. Pirates could not. Mosquitoes thrived throughout the tropical islands. Many carry malaria or yellow fever. One tiny bite during a brief visit ashore could quietly determine a sailor's fate weeks later. The fever often began gently. A headache, chills, fatigue. Then suddenly the body seemed to turn against itself. Sweat poured endlessly. Teeth chattered despite unbearable heat. Hallucinations arrived. Strength disappeared. Friends who had been joking together yesterday now watched helplessly as another member of the crew slipped toward death. Medical knowledge remained painfully limited. Doctors spoke confidently. Nature ignored them. Some treatments involved bleeding the patient. Others prescribed strange mixtures of herbs, mercury, alcohol, vinegar, tobacco, smoke, or combinations so bizarre that modern physicians would probably need a quiet moment before responding. Occasionally someone recovered, usually because their immune system succeeded despite the treatment rather than because of it. No one knew. Recovery looked like proof. Failure became bad luck. That was often the extent of 18th century medical science. Below deck, another army flourished. Rats. Every ship carried them. Some arrived hidden inside cargo. Others climbed aboard while vessels lay anchored in busy ports. Once established, they became almost impossible to remove. The rats ate grain, chewed rope, damaged sails, contaminated food, destroyed clothing, and multiplied with astonishing enthusiasm. If sailors hated rats, they hated lice even more. Crowded sleeping conditions created perfect opportunities for tiny parasites. Months without proper washing allowed lice to spread rapidly from man to man. Every itch invited scratching. Every scratch risked infection. Sleep, already scarce, became even more elusive. Imagine trying to rest after 16 hours of hauling sails while tiny insects march confidently across your scalp. Comfort was not among the sea's priorities. The pirates developed practical solutions whenever possible. Clothing was aired beneath the sun. Hair was sometimes shaved short. Blankets were beaten vigorously. None of it worked particularly well. Life aboard ship often meant accepting problems rather than solving them. There was one smell aboard every pirate vessel that no amount of sea breeze could entirely erase. The bilge. Deep beneath the lowest deck, water constantly collected inside the hull. This mixture defies easy description. Seawater leaked through planks. Rainwater found its way downward. Food scraps fell unnoticed. Animal waste accumulated. Dead rats occasionally floated unnoticed until the smell suggested investigation. Oil, tar, mud, rotting organic matter, all blended together into something truly unforgettable. Veteran sailors claimed they could recognize a ship's bilge from dozens of yards away. One suspects they were not exaggerating. The pumps worked constantly because stagnant bilge water did more than smell unpleasant. It encouraged disease. Insects, old. Neglecting it invited disaster. Unfortunately, cleaning it meant climbing into it. Few sailors volunteered enthusiastically. Someone always had to, because someone always does. Life aboard ship relied upon countless unpleasant jobs that no one wanted. Yet without them, everyone suffered. Even wounds that seemed trivial could become deadly. Imagine receiving a small cut across your hand while pulling rough hemp rope. It stings. You wrap it in cloth. Continue working. Within 2 days, the wound becomes swollen. By the 4th day, red streaks creep slowly toward your wrist. Fever follows. Without antibiotics, the body's defenses fought alone. Sometimes they won. Sometimes they lost. Pirates carried scars everywhere. Not all came from glorious battles. Many resulted from splinters, rope burns, accidents with axes, slipping on wet decks, careless knife work while preparing meals. A ship was essentially one enormous collection of sharp edges, heavy objects, open flames, and moving machinery floating upon an unstable surface. Modern workplace safety inspectors would have resigned almost immediately. Despite everything, human beings remain remarkably adaptable. Pirates developed routines that transformed hardship into ordinary life. Morning inspections, cleaning weapons, checking rigging, repairing sails, scrubbing decks with seawater, pumping the bilge, mending clothing, cooking whatever remained edible. Repetition became comforting. Routine gave shape to uncertainty. One of the more surprising aspects of pirate society involved how injured crew members were treated. Unlike many merchant ships, pirate articles often guaranteed compensation. Lose a hand in battle, receive extra shares. Lose a leg, receive more. An eye, a finger. Compensation varied, but the principle remained surprisingly consistent. The crew recognized sacrifice. Practicality again outweighed sentiment. A sailor willing to risk life and limb deserved support if fortune turned against him. It was hardly modern healthcare, but compared to much of the 18th century, it represented a notable degree of collective responsibility. Not every pirate was forced aboard, but many stayed because life elsewhere had offered even less. That uncomfortable truth sits quietly beneath nearly every romantic pirate story. For countless sailors, piracy was not the best life imaginable. It was merely better than the one they had escaped. Aboard merchant vessels, they had been beaten, cheated, starved, abandoned. Here, at least, they possessed a vote, a share, a voice, even if that voice occasionally shouted while pointing a loaded pistol. History seldom presents clean moral choices. It usually offers difficult comparisons. Evenings below deck became strangely intimate. Lanterns cast warm circles of light that barely pushed back the darkness. Someone stitched a torn sleeve. Someone carved tiny patterns into a wooden spoon simply to keep restless hands occupied. Another quietly read from a weathered Bible, though whether for comfort or habit no one could say. Nearby, two pirates argued over cards with remarkable seriousness, considering they owned little beyond the clothes on their backs. Laughter erupted from another corner, then faded. Above them, footsteps crossed the deck. The watch changed. Outside, the sea continued its endless breathing against the hull. Some sailors dreamed of retiring with enough money to purchase a small farm. Others imagined opening taverns. A few hoped simply to survive another year. Many never spoke of the future at all. Experience had taught them that tomorrow remained a luxury. One storm, one unlucky cannonball, one infected wound, one fever, one reef hidden beneath calm water. Any of these could quietly erase every plan. And so, they learned to live inside the present, to enjoy a warm meal when it appeared, a clear night, a favorable wind, a successful raid, a shared joke, a bottle passed around the deck. Tiny victories became life's greatest treasures. Ironically, those moments of ordinary humanity are what make pirate history so fascinating. Behind every legendary name stood men who laughed at terrible jokes, complained about spoiled food, worried about aching knees, missed their families, feared dying alone, and occasionally stared across moonlit water wondering how exactly life had carried them so impossibly far from home. The myths remember the flags. History remembers the people. And somewhere in the darkness below deck, while the lantern slowly burned lower and the ship rocked gently beneath an endless sky filled with stars older than civilization itself, another pirate quietly coughed into his sleeve. No one paid much attention. They had all heard coughing before. By morning, one more hammock might hang empty. Tortuga, Nassau, and a dangerous illusion of freedom. No ship, no matter how fearless its crew, could remain at sea forever. Water barrels emptied. Food disappeared. Gunpowder dwindled. Zeitstola. Hulls leaked. Men grew tired. Even pirates, despite what the legends might suggest, occasionally needed a bath. Not that they always took one, but the opportunity at least presented itself. Eventually, every voyage pointed toward land. And for pirates, few sights inspired greater relief than the first glimpse of a familiar harbor rising from the morning mist. After weeks surrounded by nothing but rolling water, the appearance of palm trees, wooden docks, and smoke curling lazily from cooking fires felt almost magical. The smell reached them before the coastline did. Fresh earth, burning wood, cooked meat, flowers carried by warm Caribbean breezes. After months breathing nothing but salt air, tar, damp timber, and too many other sailors, land itself smelled almost luxurious. The men crowded the rails. Some grinned, others simply stared. No one admitted it aloud, but every pirate understood a dangerous truth. Surviving the ocean did not necessarily mean surviving the shore, because ports could be every bit as deadly as storms. Perhaps nowhere represented pirate life more famously than the bustling settlements scattered across the Caribbean during the late 17th and early 18th centuries. Places like Tortuga and Nassau have become almost mythical in popular imagination. Today they conjure images of lively taverns, cheerful sea songs, endless rum, and carefree rogues laughing beneath tropical sunsets. There is, as usual, a grain of truth buried beneath a mountain of fiction. These ports were lively. They were noisy. They were filled with opportunity. They were also overcrowded, filthy, violent, disease-ridden, and astonishingly dangerous. Picture Nassau around the year 1717. The harbor is crowded with vessels of every imaginable size. Merchant ships unload cargo, while fishermen mend nets nearby. Privateers, smugglers, escaped slaves, traders, gamblers, carpenters, prostitutes, merchants, sailors, and pirates all compete for the same narrow streets. Languages mix together in a constant roar. English, Spanish, French, Dutch, African dialects, native Caribbean languages. Arguments erupt every few minutes. Money changes hands endlessly. Someone is always buying. Someone is always stealing. Someone is always lying. The town itself grows almost by accident. Wooden buildings lean slightly because the tropical climate has already begun attacking their foundations. Roofs patched with whatever materials happen to be available barely survive hurricane seasons. Mud fills the streets after heavy rain. Pigs wander freely. Dogs search for scraps. Mosquitoes hover everywhere. The smell is unforgettable. Fresh fish, rotting fish, rum, sweat, smoke, horse manure, human waste, seaweed drying beneath the sun, spices from distant colonies, fresh bread from a nearby bakery, rotting fruit abandoned beside the docks. Everything blends together into one enormous perfume of empire. A pirate returning from months at sea might find it wonderful. A modern tourist would probably request another hotel immediately. The taverns filled first. They always did. Imagine pushing open a heavy wooden door. Warm air rolls outward carrying laughter, arguments, music, spilled ale, tobacco smoke, and enough rum to embarrass an entire navy. The room buzzes with energy. Cards slap against rough tables. Dice tumble across scarred wood. Someone sings loudly. Several others attempt to join in despite possessing only the faintest relationship with melody. A fiddler somehow continues playing while two customers argue beside him. He has clearly seen worse. Probably yesterday. Pirates spent money with astonishing speed. Months of danger often disappeared in a single week of celebration. New boots, fresh shirts, better pistols, repairing equipment, paying debts, buying drinks for strangers. Because after surviving hurricanes and cannon fire, financial planning rarely felt urgent. Many captains tried encouraging restraint. Most failed. Gold weighs surprisingly little. Rum weighs considerably more once consumed. Some pirates awoke days later with remarkably empty pockets and only vague memories explaining why. This pattern repeated itself across generations. Human beings, it seems, have always been capable of making questionable decisions immediately after receiving unexpected income. Yet these ports served purposes far beyond entertainment. Pirate ships desperately needed supplies. Fresh fruit could finally replace months of salted food. Vegetables restored exhausted bodies. Livestock might be purchased alive and carried aboard. Freshwater barrels were cleaned and refilled. Sails repaired. Broken masts replaced. Hulls scraped free of barnacles. Blacksmiths hammered damaged weapons back into useful condition. Rope makers twisted endless coils of hemp. Shipwrights inspected every beam. An experienced carpenter walking slowly around a battered pirate vessel could almost read its recent history. This crack, storm, these splinter marks, cannon fire, that patched mast, lightning, perhaps. Ship spoke. One only needed experience to understand the language. Of course, ports also brought something sailors had lacked for months. News. Imagine spending half a year isolated upon the ocean. No newspapers, no letters, no reliable communication whatsoever. Returning to port meant discovering that governments had changed. Wars had begun. Wars had ended. Kings had died. Prices had risen. Entire fleets had vanished. Friends once believed alive were now quietly buried somewhere beyond the sea. The world continued moving while pirates drifted beyond its edges. Information became almost as valuable as food. Who commanded the Royal Navy now? Which trade routes carried silver? Where had naval patrols recently increased? Which governors secretly accepted bribes? Which islands remained safe? Rumors spread faster than certainty. One sailor insisted a massive Spanish treasure fleet had departed Havana. Another claimed the British were preparing a new anti-pirate campaign. Someone swore Blackbeard himself had been seen only days earlier. Another laughed and replied that Blackbeard had reportedly died 3 separate times already. Legends grow quickly in crowded taverns. Truth struggles to keep pace. Ports also became recruitment grounds. Not every pirate crew returned with the same number of men they had departed with. Storms claimed some. Disease claimed others. Battle claimed more. Fresh sailors constantly replaced the missing. Some volunteered enthusiastically. Others accepted after too much rum. A few discovered the following morning that they had apparently joined a pirate crew sometime after midnight. One imagines that conversation over breakfast. So, where exactly are we sailing? Jamaica. I live in Bristol. Not anymore. Despite their lawless reputations, pirate ports contain surprisingly complex economies. Merchants willingly traded with pirates despite official disapproval. Money rarely asked difficult moral questions. A bolt of fine cloth purchased with stolen Spanish silver spent exactly the same as one earned honestly. Shopkeepers often developed selective eyesight regarding customers' professions. Governors occasionally behaved similarly. Bribery flourished. Officials looked elsewhere. Pirates spent generously. Everyone benefited, until governments finally decided they had benefited enough. By the second decade of the 18th century, European powers grew increasingly determined to eliminate piracy. The Golden Age had become expensive. Merchant companies demanded protection. Insurance costs rose. Trade suffered. Governments concluded that enough was enough. Or perhaps more accurately, enough had become too expensive. Royal pardons were offered. Some pirates accepted. Others laughed. Some accepted the pardon, then quietly returned to piracy a few months later. Old habits, especially profitable ones, proved remarkably difficult to abandon. Naval squadrons increased their patrols. Governors received stricter orders. Harbors once welcoming suddenly became dangerous. A familiar tavern owner might still smile warmly while secretly informing authorities that a wanted captain had arrived. Trust, already fragile aboard ship, became almost impossible ashore. One evening celebration could become tomorrow's arrest. Imagine lying awake inside an inexpensive room overlooking Nassau's harbor. Outside, laughter drifts upward from the taverns. Ships rock gently at anchor beneath moonlight. Palm leaves rustle softly in the warm breeze. It almost feels peaceful, yet your pistol rests loaded beside the bed. Your cutlass leans against the wall within arm's reach. You have barricaded the door, not because you expect enemies from another nation, because you fear betrayal from your own world. There is something deeply lonely about becoming famous for the wrong reasons. Everyone recognizes your name. Very few can be trusted. Some pirates attempted leaving this life behind. A few succeeded. Imagine purchasing a modest farm somewhere along the American colonies, growing vegetables, keeping chickens, watching seasons pass instead of storms, living quietly beneath your own name. For some, this dream became reality. For many more, it lasted only until money ran short. Honest work rarely competed with pirate profits. The temptation returned. Just one more voyage, one final prize, enough wealth to retire comfortably. History is filled with people who believed they were taking one last risk. The sea quietly collected many of them. As dawn approached over Nassau Harbor, gulls circled lazily above anchored ships. Dockworkers began another day. Blacksmiths lit their forges. Market stalls opened. Fresh bread emerged from ovens. Children ran along muddy streets, chasing one another between barrels and crates, scarcely noticing the infamous men walking past. Life continued. It always does, even in places history later transforms into legend. For all their freedom, pirates remained trapped by an uncomfortable reality. Every successful raid increased the price on their heads. Every famous victory narrowed their future. Every celebrated captain eventually discovered that the world grows surprisingly small when every navy on the ocean is looking for you. The ports that once felt like home slowly became hunting grounds. And somewhere beyond the glittering Caribbean horizon, sails bearing the flags of Europe's greatest empires were already catching the morning wind. They were not coming to negotiate. They were coming to end an age. And aboard more than one pirate ship preparing to leave the safety of harbor once again, a weathered sailor looked back toward the shoreline for just a moment longer than usual. Perhaps he sensed it. Perhaps he simply appreciated dry land. Either way, the tide was turning, not just beneath the hull, but beneath history itself. The hunters become the hunted. Every age eventually discovers that chaos is only entertaining when it belongs to someone else. For decades, European empires had tolerated piracy whenever it proved convenient. During wartime, governments happily issued letters of marque to privateers, encouraging them to attack enemy shipping while quietly collecting a share of the profits. Merchants complained, of course, but complaints carried far less weight than victory. Peace changed everything. Suddenly, the same men who had once been useful became inconvenient. The ships had not changed. The captains had not changed. The cannons still fired exactly as they always had. Only the paperwork was different. In the 18th century, paperwork could determine whether a man received a medal or a noose. By the early 1700s, the Atlantic had become one of the busiest commercial highways on Earth. Sugar plantations in the Caribbean produced fortunes. Tobacco crossed the ocean by the ton. Silver from the Americas continued flowing toward Europe. Tea, silk, spices, and manufactured goods connected continents in ways never before imagined. Every merchant ship represented investment. Every cargo represented taxes. Every successful pirate attack interrupted that enormous machine. Governments rarely ignore threats to money for very long. The Royal Navy expanded its patrols. French warships increased their presence. Spanish escorts accompanied treasure fleets. Colonial governors received increasingly direct instructions. End piracy. Not reduce it. Not discourage it. End it. Simple words. Extraordinarily difficult task. The Caribbean was vast. Hundreds of islands dotted thousands of miles of coastline. Hidden coves sheltered small vessels. Mangrove swamps concealed entire ships beneath tangled branches. Local fishermen often knew secret channels that larger naval vessels dared not enter. Pirates had spent years learning every current, every reef, every sheltered bay. The Navy possessed more cannon. Pirates possessed better local knowledge. At first, the hunters found themselves chasing ghosts. Reports arrived constantly. A pirate ship was seen near Cuba, another off Hispaniola, 3 vessels near the Bahamas. By the time naval ships arrived, nothing, only empty sea. The pirates had already vanished over the horizon. A frigate could spend weeks pursuing a rumor. The rumor usually proved faster. Life aboard a naval warship differed greatly from life aboard a pirate vessel. Discipline remained strict. Uniforms, where possible, were maintained. The chain of command was absolute. A captain's orders were not debated. They were obeyed. Immediately, punishments aboard naval ships remained harsh. Flogging continued as an accepted method of discipline. Sailors endured exhausting routines remarkably similar to those aboard pirate vessels. The sea, after all, made no distinction between legal and illegal ships. Storms soaked everyone equally. Scurvy attacked both sides. Sleep remained scarce. Food remained monotonous. The principal difference lay in purpose. One ship protected commerce. The other preyed upon it. Interestingly, many naval sailors privately admired pirate seamanship, not their crimes, their skill. To survive as a pirate demanded exceptional navigation, quick decision-making, and remarkable courage. Even enemies recognized competence. An experienced pirate captain could often outmaneuver ships technically larger and more powerful simply because he understood the sea more intimately. Knowledge frequently outweighed firepower, until luck intervened. Luck always intervened eventually. The British government introduced another remarkably effective weapon: mercy, or at least the promise of it. Royal pardons spread throughout the colonies. Any pirate willing to surrender within a specified period could receive forgiveness for previous crimes. It was a clever strategy. Not every pirate trusted the offer. Many suspected a trap. Some accepted immediately. Others hesitated. Several crews divided bitterly over the decision. Imagine the conversation unfolding beneath a warm Caribbean sunset. We've made enough. No one ever makes enough. The Navy grows stronger. We've escaped them before. What if the pardon is genuine? What if it isn't? Silence. No answer satisfied everyone. For men who had spent years trusting only themselves, believing government promises required considerable optimism. Some accepted the pardon and genuinely retired. Others accepted it only to return to piracy months later after honest work proved disappointingly unprofitable. Governments noticed. Future offers became less generous. Trust, once broken, rarely repairs easily. Meanwhile, naval intelligence improved. Governors shared information. Merchant captains submitted detailed reports. Captured pirates revealed safe harbors under questioning. Sometimes willingly, sometimes not. The invisible network protecting pirate communities slowly unraveled. Every arrest produced more names. Every name led to another investigation. The circle tightened. Pirates also suffered from an unavoidable mathematical problem. Success created fame. Fame created recognition. Recognition destroyed anonymity. Imagine attempting to hide after your face has become famous across the Caribbean. Every dockworker notices. Every tavern keeper remembers. Every customs official suddenly studies you with unusual interest. Even children begin whispering, "That's him." Being legendary sounds appealing, until everyone knows exactly where to find you. Perhaps no pirate understood this better than Blackbeard. His enormous beard, braided and decorated with burning slow matches before battle, became one of history's most unforgettable images. It terrified opponents brilliantly. It also made disguise rather difficult. There are disadvantages to effective personal branding. Many of the greatest pirate captains eventually discovered the same uncomfortable truth. The world had begun adapting to them. Merchant vessels traveled in convoys. Armed escorts became common. Ports closed their doors. Former allies disappeared. Safe waters gradually became dangerous waters. Every voyage required greater risks for smaller rewards. The Golden Age had begun feeding upon itself. Pirates also faced dangers from within. Loyalty weakened when fortunes declined. Arguments over shares became more frequent. Captains who once inspired confidence now attracted criticism. Mutiny remained an ever-present possibility. History often remembers spectacular betrayals. More frequently, collapse arrives through smaller fractures. A disagreement over supplies, a delayed payment, an unpopular decision. Enough tiny cracks eventually sink even the strongest ship. Then came the trials. If naval battles represented the physical end of piracy, courtrooms represented its public conclusion. Captured pirates were transported to colonial courts, particularly in places like Jamaica, Virginia, or London. Trials rarely lasted long. Evidence usually proved overwhelming. Witnesses identified the accused. Captured cargo spoke for itself. Confessions occasionally emerged. The verdict became almost inevitable. Guilty. The sentence rarely surprised anyone. Death by hanging. Executions served purposes beyond punishment. Governments understood theater remarkably well. The gallows became a stage. Crowds gathered. Merchants attended. Families watched. Officials delivered speeches. The message was unmistakable. This is what happens to pirates. Bodies were sometimes left hanging in chains near busy waterways, slowly weathering beneath sun, wind, and rain. Passing sailors could hardly miss them. It was grim, deliberately so. Empires believed fear could succeed where cannon alone had struggled. For many it did. Imagine sailing into a harbor after months at sea and seeing the remains of men you once knew suspended above the tide. The wind moves them gently. Seabirds perch nearby without concern. The ocean continues rising and falling beneath the docks. Life proceeds normally around extraordinary death. It is difficult to imagine a more sobering welcome. Not every pirate died dramatically. Some disappeared during storms. Some settled quietly under false names. Some are killed in anonymous skirmishes no historian ever recorded. Some simply vanished into history's enormous silence. The famous names represent only a fraction of those who lived this life. Most pirates left behind no portraits, no memoirs, no monuments, only scattered legal records and frightened newspaper accounts written by people who had never actually sailed beside them. History remembers legends. The sea remembers everyone. As the years passed, pirate ships became increasingly rare. Black flags appeared less often. Merchant captains relaxed, slightly. Insurance costs slowly declined. Trade resumed its relentless expansion. Empires congratulated themselves. Order, they declared, had returned. Of course, piracy itself never truly disappeared. It merely changed shape. Different centuries produced different oceans, different ships, different motives. The idea proved surprisingly resilient, because wherever wealth travels through vulnerable places, someone eventually decides it would look better in their own hands. Human nature, much like the sea, possesses remarkable consistency. On one quiet evening near the close of the Golden Age, imagine an aging pirate sitting alone upon the stern of a weathered sloop. His beard has begun turning gray. Old scars ache whenever rain approaches. The pistols at his belt feel heavier than they once did. The laughter of younger crewmen drifts faintly across the deck. He watches the sunset without speaking. Perhaps he remembers friends long buried beneath Atlantic waves. Perhaps he remembers his first voyage, the first merchant ship, the first storm, the first time he realized that freedom carried a price no one had mentioned. He has spent years outrunning navies, years chasing fortune, years living one battle away from death. And now, he notices something curious. The horizon looks exactly as it did on the day he first stepped aboard. The sea is not aged. Only he has. Tomorrow, another sail may appear. Perhaps a merchant. Perhaps the Royal Navy. Perhaps no one at all. But deep inside, he already understands what history is beginning to whisper. Every pirate ship, no matter how feared, eventually sails toward its final horizon. And the ocean, as always, will be waiting. The truth behind the legends they left behind. By the middle of the 18th century, something remarkable had happened. The pirate ship, the very symbol that had terrified merchants across the Atlantic for decades, had begun transforming into something far less dangerous. A story. Not overnight, of course. Reality rarely surrenders so easily. There were still scattered attacks. Isolated captains still raised black flags against unlucky merchant vessels. Smugglers continued weaving through hidden coves. A few determined outlaws refused to accept that their age had ended. But the great era of Caribbean piracy, the period that later generations would romanticize endlessly, was quietly slipping beneath history's horizon. And almost immediately, the myths began. Human beings have always been uncomfortable with ordinary endings. We prefer legends. A pirate who dies in an anonymous skirmish becomes far more memorable if someone later insists he buried unimaginable treasure before his final battle. A weathered captain struggling with arthritis somehow transforms into a fearless swashbuckler capable of defeating entire fleets single-handedly. A filthy, overcrowded ship becomes an adventurous floating kingdom. History fades. Stories grow. The first people to exaggerate pirate lives were often sailors themselves. After all, imagine returning safely home after months at sea. Your family gathers around the fire. Neighbors ask what happened. Now you face a choice. Do you describe 3 weeks spent repairing torn sails while suffering from constipation, rain-soaked bedding, and spoiled salt pork? Or do you mention the dramatic chase through a tropical storm? The cannon duel at sunrise? The terrifying captain with pistols tucked into every available pocket? The decision seems fairly obvious. Good stories survive. Routine disappears. Generations passed. The details blurred. By the 19th century, piracy had become distant enough that writers could reshape it almost however they wished. Adventure novels exploded in popularity. Readers longed for dangerous seas, mysterious islands, hidden caves, and brave outlaws. Authors happily obliged. Perhaps no single book shaped the modern pirate more than Treasure Island. Suddenly, pirates possessed colorful personalities. Talking parrots, wooden legs, treasure maps marked with neat little X's, secret coves overflowing with buried gold. Children dreamed of becoming pirates. One suspect's actual 18th century pirates would have found this deeply confusing. They had spent years dreaming of becoming anything else. Because reality rarely resembles nostalgia. The famous pirate accent, many people instantly recognize today, largely the product of 20th century film performances. The image of every pirate wearing an eye patch, great visual storytelling, less convincing historically. Yes, some sailors certainly lost eyes, but not nearly enough to outfit entire fleets. The parrot perched permanently on the captain's shoulder? Possible. Exotic birds were valuable cargo throughout the Caribbean. Some pirates undoubtedly owned them. Most probably preferred food that did not scream unexpectedly during important conversations. Then there is the matter of treasure. It is perhaps the greatest pirate myth of them all. Gold certainly existed. Silver too. Jewels occasionally appeared among captured cargo. But pirate wealth usually looked surprisingly ordinary. Bales of cloth, sugar, tobacco, indigo, cocoa, coffee, medicine, tools, weapons, barrels of food, livestock, everything that kept the expanding Atlantic economy moving. These items sold quickly, fed crews, repaired ships, paid bribes. The romantic image of pirates endlessly collecting mountains of glittering gold ignores a practical truth. Gold does not feed hungry sailors. Fresh water matters far more than emeralds when drifting beneath a merciless tropical sun. One barrel of clean drinking water could become more valuable than a chest of silver. Perspective changes quickly when survival enters the conversation. Even clothing tells an interesting story. Movies often present pirates wearing elaborate coats, polished boots, colorful sashes, and perfectly balanced hats. Sometimes they did, usually because they had stolen them. Pirates wore whatever worked, whatever fit, whatever happened to be available. One sailor might wear expensive silk trousers captured from a wealthy merchant. Another stood beside him wearing patched canvas held together with rough stitching. Fashion aboard pirate ships depended less upon style than opportunity. The result often appeared wonderfully chaotic. Imagine a group portrait, a French coat, Spanish boots, Dutch pistols, English hats, African headscarves, native Caribbean knives. Nothing matched. Everything functioned. The pirate ship itself represented something equally misunderstood. Popular imagination often portrays enormous vessels packed with endless rows of cannon. Reality favored efficiency. Smaller ships moved faster. Shallow drafts allowed escape through reefs and narrow channels inaccessible to larger warships. Speed often proved more valuable than overwhelming firepower. After all, pirates earned fortunes by choosing battles carefully. They did not seek glorious last stands. They sought profitable victories. There is another myth worth examining: the idea that pirates rejected all authority. In truth, pirate crews relied upon rules constantly. Without discipline, ships collapsed. Without agreed shares, fights erupted. Without watch schedules, ships drifted into reefs. Without maintenance, everyone drowned. Freedom aboard a pirate ship never meant the absence of rules. It meant participating in creating them. This subtle distinction often disappears beneath dramatic storytelling. The sea demanded order, regardless of politics. Modern historians have spent decades piecing together pirate life from scattered fragments. Court records, letters, ship logs, government reports, newspapers, archaeological discoveries beneath tropical waters. Every new document gently chips away at centuries of exaggeration. Sometimes the truth proves stranger than fiction. For example, pirate crews often included remarkable diversity for their time. European sailors served beside Africans. Former enslaved men gained positions impossible elsewhere in colonial society. Escaped servants, native islanders, foreign sailors captured from merchant ships. All could potentially earn shares if accepted by the crew. This hardly made piracy morally enlightened. Far from it. Some pirates participated in the slave trade themselves. Others attacked slave ships. A few freed captives. Others sold them again. There was no single pirate philosophy. Only individuals making decisions, sometimes noble, often selfish, frequently contradictory. History refuses to simplify people. That is precisely what makes it fascinating. Archaeology has added another layer to the story. For centuries, pirate ships rested quietly beneath coral reefs and shifting sand. Then divers began finding them. Cannons lying where they fell. Iron anchors buried beneath centuries of sediment. Broken bottles, buttons, clay pipes, fragments of dishes, medical instruments, navigation tools. The remains rarely resemble Hollywood. Instead, they resemble ordinary lives interrupted suddenly. A spoon still resting where someone last used it. A shoe, a coin, a rusted pistol. Tiny objects become unexpectedly moving. Someone held them. Someone expected tomorrow. Tomorrow never arrived. Shipwrecks are time capsules. The sea preserves moments no diary ever recorded. Imagine the final seconds of one forgotten pirate vessel. A hidden reef, with splitting beneath unimaginable pressure. Water rushing through the hull. Lanterns extinguished. Men shouting in darkness. Cannons breaking loose. The deck tilting sharply. Cold seawater flooding below. Then, silence. Fish eventually swim through broken cabins. Coral slowly grows across cannon. Sea turtles glide peacefully above forgotten cargo. Centuries pass. The ocean transforms tragedy into habitat. Nature possesses extraordinary patience. There is something almost poetic about that. The same sea that terrified generations of sailors quietly protects their stories beneath its surface. Today, millions of people visit pirate museums, restored ships, and historic ports every year. Children buy toy cutlasses. Families pose beside replicas of black flags. Adventure parks recreate pirate battles complete with cheerful explosions and carefully choreographed sword fights. There's nothing inherently wrong with this. Stories should entertain. Legends deserve celebration. But perhaps it is also worth remembering the quieter truth beneath the spectacle. Behind every famous pirate stood ordinary human beings. Young men barely out of childhood. Veterans with aching joints. Renaway escaping impossible circonstances. Criminals seeking wealth. Sailors simply trying to survive another voyage. Some committed terrible crimes. Some displayed unexpected kindness. Most occupied the complicated space between hero and villain. Just like nearly everyone else in history, the sea stripped away titles remarkably efficiently. On land, someone might be a nobleman, a farmer, a criminal, a carpenter. At sea, everyone became vulnerable. The wind could not be bribed. Storms ignored social status. Disease cared little for reputation. The ocean reduced humanity to its simplest form. One fragile wooden ship, one uncertain crew, one endless horizon. As night settles once more across the Atlantic, imagine standing quietly upon an empty beach. The tide rolls gently onto the sand before retreating into darkness. Somewhere far offshore lies the wreck of a forgotten pirate vessel. Its name has vanished, its crew largely forgotten. The timbers have long since collapsed beneath coral and shells. Fish drift lazily through what was once the captain's cabin. An anchor still grips the seabed exactly where it landed 3 centuries ago. Above it all, the moon reflects upon the water just as it did during the Golden Age. The waves sound exactly the same. The wind still carries salt across the shore. Nature remembers nothing, and somehow, it remembers everything. Because long after the flags have rotted away, long after the cannons have rusted into strange orange shapes beneath the sea, long after the last eyewitness has disappeared into history, the ocean continues telling the same quiet story to anyone willing to listen. Not about treasure, not about glory, but about fragile human beings who believe they could master an endless sea, only to discover they were merely passing through it. The last watch before dawn. It is very late now. The lantern hanging from the stern has burned lower than anyone expected. The crew, or at least those fortunate enough to sleep, lie wrapped in coarse blankets that never quite become dry. The sails above us breathe gently with the night wind. Somewhere forward, a sailor quietly clears his throat. Another turns over in his hammock, causing a chorus of ropes to creak softly in protest. The ship moves almost silently. Not because the sea is calm, because after spending enough time aboard, your ears begin separating ordinary sounds from extraordinary ones. The groaning hull is ordinary. The fluttering canvas is ordinary. The splash of waves against oak is ordinary. Silence. Silence is what makes sailors nervous. For centuries, people standing safely upon dry land imagined the pirate ship as the ultimate symbol of freedom. No taxes, no kings, no laws, no masters. A floating republic where fortune favored only the bold is a beautiful idea, is also only part of the truth. Freedom aboard a pirate ship came with conditions so severe that most people alive today would abandon the adventure before the first week ended. There was no certainty, no salary, no pension, no doctor waiting at the next port, no guarantee of tomorrow. Every sunrise began with possibility. Every sunset ended with survival. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it wasn't. The sea forced everyone aboard into a strange relationship with mortality. On land, death often feels distant. Something that belongs to old age, bad luck, or somebody else's story. At sea, death became another member of the crew. Not constantly visible, simply present. A loose rope, an unexpected squall, a hidden reef, a spoiled barrel of water, a fever, one careless step while climbing the rigging. A cannon fired half a second too early. One splinter in the wrong place. A ship sighted on the wrong horizon. No dramatic speeches. No heroic music. Just a series of ordinary moments capable of ending extraordinarily. Perhaps that explains something about pirates that history often struggles to capture. They laughed loudly. They celebrated fiercely. They spent money recklessly. They argued passionately. They drank heavily when circumstances allowed. Not merely because they lacked discipline, because tomorrow remained uncertain. People living close to death often become remarkably skilled at appreciating tonight. That is not unique to pirates. It is profoundly human. There is another uncomfortable truth hidden beneath centuries of adventure stories. The Golden Age of Piracy was built upon the expanding Atlantic world, upon empires, upon colonialism, upon global trade, upon sugar plantations, upon tobacco fields, upon silver mines, and tragically, upon the transatlantic slave trade. The same sea that carried pirates also carried millions of enslaved Africans across the ocean under unimaginable conditions. Some pirate crews attacked slave ships. A few freed captives. Others captured enslaved people for profit. Still others participated directly in the same brutal system they claimed to reject. There was no simple morality. No clean division between villains and heroes. The 18th century rarely offered such comforts. History asks us to hold several truths at once. Pirates challenged imperial authority. Pirates also committed terrible violence. Some defended equality within their own crews. Many showed little mercy outside them. Some became symbols of resistance. Others became symbols of greed. Most became both. Human beings possess an astonishing ability to contain contradictions. Perhaps that is why pirate history continues to fascinate us. Not because pirates were extraordinary monsters, nor because they were misunderstood heroes, because they were recognizably human, placed in extraordinary circumstances, driven by ambition, fear, poverty, opportunity, desperation, luck, the same forces that have shaped countless lives throughout history. As historians continue exploring archives and underwater wrecks, new discoveries quietly reshape our understanding. A forgotten letter, a damaged logbook, a rusted compass recovered from beneath coral, a pistol found inside a collapsed cabin, a simple clay pipe resting exactly where someone left it more than 300 years ago. These objects rarely tell us about famous battles. Instead, they whisper about ordinary mornings. Someone smoked that pipe while watching another sunrise. Someone held that compass hoping it pointed towards safety. Someone placed that spoon beside a bowl of salted stew without realizing it would remain there until modern archaeologists found it centuries later. History often survives in the smallest things. A button, a coin, a fragment of glass. The sea preserves them with remarkable patience. There is something deeply humbling about that. We remember Blackbeard. We remember Bartholomew Roberts. We remember Bonnie and Mary Red. We remember the names that became legends. But thousands of other pirates remain anonymous. Their identities dissolved into waves long ago. No portraits, no biographies, no monuments, only bones beneath the Atlantic. Or perhaps not even those. The ocean is exceptionally good at keeping secrets. Sometimes people ask why the Golden Age of Piracy lasted for such a relatively short period. The answer, perhaps, is simpler than it first appears. Piracy depended upon opportunity. Once governments committed enough ships, enough money, enough intelligence, and enough political determination, the opportunities slowly disappeared. Trade adapted. Navies improved. Colonies strengthened. Safe harbors vanished. The world became smaller. The pirate ship gradually lost the freedom that had once made it dangerous. Yet the idea never truly died. Even today, the word pirate still carries strange power. It immediately summons images of black sails against orange sunsets, treasure chests buried beneath lonely palm trees, weathered captains laughing into tropical storms, a rebellious spirit refusing to obey anyone. Stories endure because they speak to something inside us. They allow us to imagine escaping ordinary life, stepping beyond rules, living entirely on our own terms. Reality, however, quietly reminds us that every choice creates new obligations. The pirate, escaping one authority, often discovered another waiting. The authority of hunger, the authority of weather, the authority of disease, the authority of the sea itself. Those laws could never be ignored, no matter how many cannons line the deck. As our journey together finally approaches its end, imagine that our ship has drifted into one final calm night. The wind has faded almost completely. The sails hang loose. Moonlight paints a silver path across the water, stretching endlessly toward the horizon. The stars above shine with astonishing clarity, just as they did for sailors thousands of years before the first pirate ever hoisted a black flag. The watch changes quietly. One tired sailor climbs into his hammock. Another takes his place beside the wheel. No one speaks much. There is no need. The sea has become peaceful again. Somewhere beneath us, perhaps hundreds or even thousands of feet below, rest the remains of countless ships. Merchant vessels carrying fortunes. Naval warships built by kings. Fishing boats that never reached home. Pirate sloops that once terrified entire coastlines. All lined together now. No flags. No uniforms. No ranks. The ocean has removed every distinction. It has a way of doing that. The waves rolling beneath our hull tonight are the same waves that touched those forgotten wrecks. The same tides that carried Columbus westward. The same currents that guided merchant convoys. The same winds that filled Blackbeard's sails. The same moonlight reflected in the eyes of frightened sailors who watched an unknown ship emerge from the darkness 3 centuries ago. Water remembers movement, not names. And perhaps there is something comforting in that thought. Empires rise. Empires collapse. Kings were crowns. Kings lose them. Pirates become legends. Legends become children's stories. The sea simply continues breathing beneath the stars. If we have learned anything during this long voyage together, perhaps it is this. The real pirate ship was never a floating paradise. It was never a romantic kingdom of endless treasure. It was a cramped wooden world held together by rope, tar, oak, courage, desperation, and constant labor. It smelled of salt, smoke, sweat, wet canvas, and fear. Its crew laughed more than we often imagine. They suffered far more than most stories admit. Some became villains. Some became victims. Many became both before their lives were over. The black flag that frightened the Atlantic did not represent freedom alone. It represented uncertainty, risk, hope, despair, the belief that one desperate gamble might create a better future. Sometimes it did. More often, it simply led to another storm. The lantern beside us flickers one last time. The horizon is beginning to brighten almost imperceptibly. Somewhere beyond the eastern edge of the world, another sunrise is preparing to arrive. Another day for the sea, another tide, another wind. The pirates are gone now. Their voices faded centuries ago. Their ships have long since surrendered to coral, sand, and silence. But if you ever find yourself standing beside the ocean late at night, when the beach is empty, the air smells faintly of salt, and the waves roll steadily toward the shore, listen carefully. Not for ghost ships, not for buried treasure, not even for the echo of distant cannon. Listen instead for the quiet creak of old timber carried only by imagination, for the whisper of wind in unseen sails, for the endless breathing of the Atlantic itself. Because the greatest survivor of the Golden Age of Piracy was never a captain, never a ship, never a kingdom. It was the sea, and it is still telling its story. Good night.